your system, right? You know what else? You find that stuff, and I'm quoting Joe. You find it in creatine. When they get creatine, sometimes from China, it's tainted with steroids. They use that creatine to cut cocaine. Purely speculative. But it could have been, and this is speculation, was Jon doing cocaine? I don't want to start any Jon Jones rumors. It's easier for me to palate or stomach the fact that he was stupid enough to do cocaine than the fact that he was steroid cheating.
Right.
And it's like, Jon, if you did cocaine, if you're still in that world, I don't know. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, you're in the prime of your life. What are you doing? But that's a crazy and stupid thing, but I can understand that as a compulsive kook myself. I can understand that easier than him thinking he can get away with drug cheating. I don't see Jon Jones being stupid enough after coming back from the fucking dick pills thing to go, yeah, I can do steroids and get away with it. Do I believe that he might have done cocaine when he knew he wasn't going to get tested, not realizing it was cut with that? Maybe. He should be sending that cocaine into USADA, by the way. Do you know what I mean?
Well, but that is part of the problem, though.
Did you ever have a problem with cocaine?
I've done enough of it, yeah.
Okay. So and I know someone who's had a really, really bad problem with it. That, like, day after, that feeling
it's awful.
Of just...
It's a horrible crash.
Yeah. So you're never really away from it. You're always addicted. Like, the first time you do it, even though people... Like, I have an addictive gene. I can't do it because I'll just go off the rails. But people who can party socially, and maybe Jon is one of these people...
No, he's not.
No.
No, didn't he have an accident after they found drugs in his glove compartment? That's not the signs of a social partier.
When I met him, I'm backstage at the Prudential Center, and I just wanted to meet him and get a picture with him.
Sure.
You know, big fan. And I'm looking at him, and I'm trying to, like, gauge the timing when to go in, because Randy Couture's back there and Ronda's back there.
Was this the Shogun fight? Was this when he was fighting for the title?
No, this was the night that Alan Belcher beat the shit out of Paul Harris.
Okay.
Which was a sick fight.
Nice, yeah.
And so we lock eyes, and he jokingly says, "Are you sizing me up, bro?" And we started talking. He was super cool.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
And I just remember thinking, like, he would be a fun guy to go out with tonight after the show. We're near Newark. I've, back in the days playing the Pipeline and in those areas, there's a lot of places you can go and get into a lot of trouble very easily. But once you're in that lifestyle, I'm not in that lifestyle anymore.
Sure.
I don't go, I have a daughter who's a teenager. I don't go to clubs. I don't go to strip clubs. But once you're in it and I remember the first, 3-4 years of trying to be sober, you do go back every now and then just to get that taste. And maybe he just had one night where he went out and he's like, all right, I did it. Now I got to get this out of my system before I get tested. And yeah, maybe it was.
Not realizing creatine was in it.
Right.
Not realizing that was what it was cut with. Yeah, man. I mean, it could be something like that's easier for me to swallow. The stupidity of that, doing coke, which again, you're doing coke 10 days before.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, again, totally speculative. There's some Rogan was saying. But also, to your point, I know you
know. I mean, after the shows, there's so much temptation. Like, it's hard to explain to someone who I talk to people who are not in the entertainment business, and
you are now.
and they'll, like, when they come to our shows and they work a regular job, they're coming to work. Like, we're working, even though it looks like there's booze backstage and we're going out to the after party. Like, the average folks don't get that this temptation is 24 hours around the clock. You can get a direct message on your Instagram. Hey, I got an 8-ball. Come over. Like from another celeb or another.
Yeah.
And it
is tempting. And so sometimes you want to say yes just because it seems like it'd be fun to do with that person.
And I was going to say, by the way, I know you were joking, but it's like, that's the thing. If it was, say, cocaine that's tainted with creatine that has Turinabol in it, you can't send that to you. So you can't prove that.
So what would the penalty be for doing cocaine?
Well, it's not. He didn't test positive.
No. But I'm saying if that. Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
If it turned out that was. So it doesn't really matter how it got in his system.
Right.
If he can't say I did coke and that's why I got steroids in my system, they'll go, oh, all right, you only did coke. Fight again next week.
Yeah,
that's
but he'd be. But he
right?
would. I think. I don't know, but I think he'd be better off being like, I took this cocaine.
Well, here's the thing about cocaine:
it,
you cannot test the sample,
right?
Because cocaine addicts don't save a sample.
Yeah, it's gone.
There's nothing left in the bag.
But also, like, what asshole person is out there tempting him to go party? I mean, everybody should know, like, don't fucking talk to this dude. Let him fight and
He
be
might
the
have asked
greatest
for it.
ever.
He might have asked for it. It's Jon's responsibility. Again,
if
that's what he did,
right.
it was his responsibility as a guy who is
change your
wants
number.
to be the champion. Yeah.
Like, it's hard. It's hard to change the number, to stay out of those situations. I've had to do it. It's extremely hard.
If that's what it is, Jon, it's like you're throwing your fucking life away on nothing. Like, you literally could be one of the greatest fighters in history, and people love you and want to see you win, and you had this wonderful win over Cormier. This kick to the head where Cormier was doing a lot better than he was in your first fight, and this impressive, decisive win. You stun this little rock figure, which is Cormier, who's never been stunned, and you find it out. Okay, Dustin, are you on the phone, buddy?
Yeah, what's going on?
Hey, buddy, you're talking. Matt Serra's out today. You're talking to Jim Norton, and Jamie Josta from Hatebreed is my co-host. How you doing?
What's up, Dustin?
Good.
You're fighting now. I'm going to take it that right now you are in Norfolk.
Yeah.
And what do you?
Norfolk, Virginia.
So how long in advance will you get into town before you have to fight?
It just depends how big the time change is or what's going on, but this is Eastern time, and I was in Florida, so I got in yesterday.
Oh, okay. So there's no real adjustment. When you're fighting at different altitudes, like have you fought in Mexico?
No, I haven't.
But when you're fighting at a different altitude, Denver or whatever, do you give yourself 2 weeks to get there, or does that not bother you as much?
Yeah, I would. If I was scheduled to fight something like that, I would, show up early to acclimate to the altitude and stuff for sure. So I've been out on training trips in Colorado and stuff, and I've definitely felt the effects of, the altitude.
Does it help to train up at that higher altitude? I've heard mixed reviews on. They said sometimes it helps to live up there more than just to train, because your breathing gets more used to it. I don't know exactly what they said, but do you just go up there for quick training trips, or will you spend like long extended periods of time at different altitudes?
I've been there for short trips to help guys or just here and there, but I've never done like a whole training camp there, and I'm not even sure about the science of how long the effects. The effects definitely do help athletic performance, but I don't know how long they stick with you after you leave the altitude and stuff. So
now your last fight was at 211 on May the 13th against Eddie Alvarez. In round 2, it ended. It was illegal knees. Eddie did land illegal knees on you while you were a downed opponent, and it was ruled a no contest. How did you feel about the end of that fight? And you handled that very, very nicely, by the way.
I appreciate it, man, but in the heat of the moment, I thought maybe it could have been an accident or, a mistake. Maybe he was still hurt from the shots. I know I had him hurt pretty bad. But after watching it again and after the way he went to social media and talked shit about the whole thing, I don't think it was an accident, so. But in the heat of the moment, I did think.
Okay, because you showed him a lot of respect when he was getting booed and stuff. What made you say on social media that you thought maybe it wasn't an accident? What happened there?
No, he was just talking shit on social media, saying that I wanted out of the fight and all kinds of ridiculous stuff, man. But he just showed his true colors. He doesn't want to do it again. I know that.
You think he doesn't want to fight you again?
No, he definitely doesn't. But honestly, I'd rather talk about my fight this weekend, man. I don't want to look in the rear view.
Yeah, understandable. Understandable. And how do you feel about the way Pettis has fought? He's coming off a unanimous decision win over Jim Miller, which is not an easy fight. And he's fighting back at lightweight now. So how do you feel he looks, and how do you deal with him?
He's a tough fighter, very skilled fighter with his unorthodox kickboxing and also his jiu-jitsu. He has more submissions than he has knockouts on his record. So I think a lot of people look past his jiu-jitsu, but he submitted 2 guys who are very good ground fighters. And I know personally Jim Miller's a tough guy to get past because I fought him in February of this year. So that's a good win. Jim's been around a long time, and he's a tough guy.
So what do you think of the division as a whole? I mean, there's so many interesting possible matchups. Like, let's say you win this fight. Let's say for the sake of argument, you beat Pettis. And right now you're number 8. So let's just say that moves you up, maybe number 6. What do you see as a possibility? Because everyone's talking about, well, is Conor going to fight Ferguson? You have Khabib against Edson Barboza. So where do you see yourself? If again, you don't look ahead of an opponent, but say you win this fight, and where do you see that you might match up after this?
I'm going to be right there, knocking on the door. Maybe one more fight, one fight than the title shot.
Sure, one more. Exactly. That makes perfect sense mathematically as well. Do you have anybody in mind that you would call out? And it's like, because it does seem like in this day and age, with so many fighters and so many divisions, so many belts and interim belts, that it helps to kind of have somebody in mind, because if it gets fan interest, a lot of times the UFC will give you the matchup.
For sure.